the Holocaust was used as the excuse to create Israel.
Right.
And it was Benny Morris. Benny Morris, who's a Jewish revisionist historian who's now turned against the Palestinians, who makes the point when Israel was created, when they forced it, when the UN was voting on it, the Arabs were literally saying that because we feel terrible about the Holocaust, the Palestinians were saying, but do we have to pay the price?
Right.
How about we'll even actually there were even Arab countries that said we'll kick in a little bit. We'll take some Jews. What should have happened, of course, is that the 250,000 refugees from the Holocaust should have been absorbed into the U.S. That's where they wanted to go anyway.
Right.
Britain, the U.S. That's where they wanted to go. That would have been the solution. That, of course, segues into our final point, which is that I think neither you nor I are Zionists. And we recognize the real problems of Israel. And
absolutely.
And you might say it's embarrassing to talk about.
But right from the beginning, as you're saying, right from the beginning, the creation of Israel, it should have been easily foreseeable that there's going to be a big problem to just say this horrible thing happened to a group of people in Europe, and therefore these guys have to all give up their land over here who had nothing to do with it, who were, they were a colony of two different countries who were on the right side of that conflict, if you want to think of it in terms of right and right, the British and the French, right?
I guess there were Arab countries, of course. There were Arab countries who liked the Nazis more. Who knows? But
it seemed it would have made, not that this was the right answer either, but it would have made more logical sense to say we're going to cut out a section of Germany and give it to the Jews.
Yes,
there would have at least been a logical train of thought there.
Your Canada idea, we could
Canada, that really would have been the way to go. There's just so much space there.
But really,
you don't even need to pay them. You can just push Canadians around.
The truth is that the established Jews in this country, who had a lot of power at the time, who could have been influential, it was 250,000 Jews that could easily have been taken in to the U.S. And of course, we would have had a bigger problem. We would have had then they would have been 2% of the population.
Oh my God! And then I can't even imagine.
And then they would have been 99% of all the business.
We'd have 3 central banks.
Exactly, just all But they were Europeans that could easily have been absorbed here, but the U.S. didn't take them, so pushed them all into Israel and then create the Israeli state. And also, going back in time, Theodor Herzl, the father of Zionism, was fully aware of the fact that there were 250,000 Palestinians living in Palestine. He talked about transferring them out, pushing them out. The whole Zionist movement, they were good people who were settlers who came, who wanted to live side by side with the Arabs. But by and large, the leaders of the Zionist movement, right from the get-go, right from its origins, wanted to push the Palestinians out. And they did so brutally in 47, 48, as you know. So it's a very sorry history. Of course, as a Jew, I had the privilege of writing an introduction to Jeremy Hammond's book on the history.
It's excellent. Yes, I've read it.
And it was a good book. And in my introduction, I said, at least, of course, what Israel did to push the Palestinians out, to turn them into refugees, to do all that, it's not a unique story. It's colonialism. That kind of ugly thing has created other countries.
Sure,
they've been other. But indeed, we did it, and it doesn't make me ashamed of being a Jew. It makes me. But we should tell it like it is. Actually, the other point I made, which I guess I should remind myself of now, is that the best evidence against the Israeli policy usually comes from Israeli news sources. That we are people who tell it like it is. The revisionist Israeli historians are the best source on this. So that's another characteristic of the Jewish personality, that they are truth tellers. They are impelled to record history accurately. And so indeed the Israeli peace movement is and of course that's my main point, that I'm not against Israel as such. Israel exists as a state. It probably will continue to exist as a state, and there is an Israeli peace movement with which I ally myself. But certainly all the condemnation of Ilhan Omar was really, really tragic. Everything she said was truthful. And although my final point is only this, that it is at least when you talk about how any hint of not liking Jews or any hint of racism, you pounce on someone, and that's terrible. That does happen. But at least we should recognize that we do live in a world now where if somebody is called out as a Jew hater, then it's a badge of shame. Because certainly if we lived in a world in which you're proud to be a Jew hater, then that would get you and me a little bit nervous that maybe the Nazis are coming again.
Yes, I do agree with you on that. I think in general, the idea that being called racist or hating Jews or hating some group of some minority group is regarded as a bad thing. I think that is a net plus. Like, that's a good thing. But it has gotten to a level where I think it does a lot more harm than good. And I also happen to be a believer, and I could be wrong about that, but I personally believe the idea that driving these type of discussions underground, so to speak, or jumping on somebody who brings up a truth and calling them all types of horrible names, like you're a Jew hater and you're racist and bigoted, I think that does a lot more to stoke anti-Jewish feelings than having a conversation like the one me and you are having right now. I've always felt like, as a response to, if there are a bunch of people out there who hate Jews, I think it's fairly reasonable for Jews like me and you to be like, okay, well, look, this is our take on it, and here's where I think you have a legitimate criticism. Here's what we've done that's good, and be honest about it. I just think it's better than that, and I feel that that's my advice to other groups as well. I think for black people, if you feel like there's all of this white supremacy or all of these white people who hate blacks, instead of just being like, oh, you're all evil and you're devils and this is the whole history of the world is white supremacy and that's why it's like, well, maybe just be like, okay, look, I understand we have, high crime areas here. Here's a lot of the historical reasons why we should do more to help out in this way. I just think an honest conversation rather than just demonizing everybody is a better way for all of us.
Well, that's right. Actually, you did set the stage for my key insight here, which is indeed that as I've said, hopefully without offending my fellow Jews, yes, as a group, we have an arrogant streak, we have a messianic streak, and that's occasionally been destructive. Yes, we are better with money on average than the average Gentile. Doesn't mean there aren't Gentiles who are good with money, all of those things. Yes, you could, and yes, indeed, we are at the forefront of cutting-edge humor, from Dave Smith to Philip Roth, to Woody Allen. He used to tell outrageous Jewish jokes that he was a show Jew. All he had to do was look Jewish because they wanted tokenism. They fired him because he took too many Jewish holidays, was his joke. The edgy humor that a lot of you Gentiles like. We brought something to the world, but if you don't like us, fine. But we're not going to pretend that that there isn't something to the idea that these very unique people that came from thousands of years ago to say that their God was the only God, that's this fragment of a people who were so tenacious to retain their Jewish identity. We're not going to pretend that we don't have a certain kind of personality type. On the other hand, of course, treat Dave Smith, treat Gene Epstein, treat Bernie Sanders like an individual whenever you meet them, for all of their quirks and foibles and whoever they are. But if you want to say that you can generalize about Jews, fine. And we're not going to be upset if you associate Jews with money. We're not going to be upset if you say that AIPAC hands out a lot of money to people. And we're not going to say, oh, that's an anti-Semitic trophy. Jews are involved with money. Because you know and we know that it's true. So we're not going to pretend that it's not true. We're going to stand up for ourselves and say we have a right to live and thrive in a market economy, whether you like us or not. We have a right. We don't have to insist that we're better than other people or worse than other people in order to have a right to live. We just declare the non-aggression principle on behalf of ourselves and on behalf of others, like us or not. So that's the point. That's the gutlessness to pretend, oh, Jews and money, for shame. Let's pretend Jews are no good at money. There are no bankers or Jews. There's no joke that says, why did God make Gentiles? Because somebody has to pay retail. So that's the key point. The key point is that we have to stand up for ourselves in that regard and recognize, yes, there's a Jewish personality, but you have to give us the respect of the non-aggression principle, just as we have to give it to you as well.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. I believe it's right here. It's not actually here, but Brian's making it look like it's here. Also, you can check out some highlights, check out the full episodes. Again, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification button, and yeah, have a good one.